Hi, I'm Sue Becker. I am a Virginia Cooperative Extension Master Gardener with in Bedford County, Virginia. I am part of their education outreach program. First thing that we need, you guys all should have a copy of the handouts that were given to you on how to start seeds. I'm going to use the information from these particular handouts in order to help you start your seeds. First thing you need, obviously, are seeds. The next thing you'll need is a little bit of all-purpose sand. The sand is very important for seed starting because, believe it or not, it has some antibacterial and antifungal properties that help keep your seeds healthy once they start to put on leaves. Oftentimes there's a fungus called dampening off that comes along, and before you know it, it's already killed your seeds off before you even get a chance to get any bigger. So that's the sand. The next thing we're going to have is your little greenhouse in a cup. So this is a little Dixie cup, and what I have done with the Dixie cup and what you're going to do with supervision from your parents is to take a pointy object like a screwdriver and poke some holes into the bottoms of your cups. This is important because you're going to water from the bottom, and this helps the soil absorb water so that it gets just enough moisture in order for it to grow. So once you've done that, you're going to put the name of whatever you're growing right across here, because you don't want to forget. Sometimes you won't know when the seeds come up, was that a vegetable or was that a flower? The next thing that you need is another clear plastic cup like this, and on the bottom, hopefully you can see, there's like a little line and it says water level, and that's important because once you've planted your little Dixie cup, that's going to go inside, and when you're ready to water your plant, you're going to take your seed cup out and you're going to pour enough water, here's the water, into your cup like this, right to the water level, so that when you put your cup back in, then it gets watered from the bottom, and that helps it also not to get any kind of funguses. So the next thing you're going to do, you have your water in, you have your cup in, and then here's your little mini greenhouse. On the top, you can see some little lines are drawn in here, and you're going to take your scissors, once again with supervision, if you need supervision, and you're going to cut little slits right in the top in order to leave a little air in here, and then that goes down over the top of your cup. So we'll finish that up in just a minute as soon as we get ready to plant our seed. We're going to talk about seeds and how seeds grow. This particular poster is an example of the life cycle of a seed. Obviously, you're going to start with a seed, and you can see where there's a tiny little plant inside the seed right here. So once that's planted in the soil and it's watered and it has a little sunlight, because it needs sun to grow, you're going to move to what we call the germination stage. That's when the seed and the plant inside the seed actually starts to pop out and to develop roots down in the soil. You can't really see this happening in your seed, but eventually you'll be able to figure out what's going on once the leaves start to pop up. For germination, you need to have water, soil, sun, and air. Those are all things that seeds need and plants need to grow. So once it's germinated and it's started to pop up inside your little cup, you're going to see the first time it has one little leaf on there. Those are called the cotyledon, which is a really big word for just the first leaves that pop up. The stems will push up towards the sun, and the roots will come down. They'll bury themselves back into the ground. And they need those roots because the roots are the things that give them the nutrients, the water, the air, everything that they are going to need to grow. And the leaves are important because the leaves take energy from the sun in order to help them grow. The next thing that you come along is when the plant actually starts to come up, and you put on actual, what we call true leaves. Those are like the new leaves that are going to come out after the first ones come out. They're important, as I said before, because they need to be able to gather that sunlight for the energy. They also need to be able to take carbon dioxide out of the air. This is why plants are so important to us, because we as human beings need oxygen to breathe and to be alive. Where plants, and then when we breathe out carbon dioxide. So the plants help take the carbon dioxide that we're breathing out in order to grow. They need that to grow. So it's a really nice relationship between humans and plants. As we come along here, once again, if your plant puts on flowers, oftentimes the flowers are the new seeds that are coming up for the plant. That's what a flower actually is. It's the beginning of the seed heads. So, and then once you get up to here, you can see this has, here's the petal of the flower petal. It has the stamen, which is right here, the little orange things. It has the pistil, which are like the long little green stems that come up. And then here's another seed. This will be the seed eventually that the plant will put on. It's a seed producing organism. That's the fruit. So this is important because many plants have to be pollinated. And I'm sure you know what pollinating means. In other words, the birds and the butterflies, the flies, the beetles, there's ants, there's all different types of insects that help pollinate the plant. And oftentimes, if the plant is not pollinated, especially in vegetables, you won't get any vegetables. So that's very, very important. And then once again, here's the seed in here. And when this plant is done blooming and done finishing, fruiting, and doing what it needs to do, then you can collect the seeds, and then you start right back here at the beginning. So from there, we're going to go ahead and start to begin to plant our seeds. So we're going to take our small little cup. Remember, we had to poke some holes in the bottom of it, and then we're going to use the seed starting mix. I've already put some seed starting mix in a cup, and I put some warm water in it to have moisture in there to begin with. So I'm going to fill it up to about, I don't know, maybe about 1/3 of the way up. It's not all the way up to the top, not quite all the way up to the top, about 1/3 to 2/3 of the way up on the small cup. So I'm going to take a little sand, and I'm going to sprinkle a little sand on top of the soil. This is important because, once again, this provides a type of little bit of bacteria in order to keep the fungus that kills your seed plants once they've started to grow. It helps keep that under control and not to happen. So then the next thing we need to do, which is very exciting, is our seeds. I've chosen sunflowers because sunflowers are really, really pretty, and they're really fun and something that you can watch grow during the summer. And the wonderful thing about sunflowers is that they produce their own seeds that you can actually harvest and eat. So that's a very fun thing to do with your sunflowers. So when you buy your package of seeds, it'll tell you what it is up at the top, and then on the back it'll also give you an expiration date. And this is important because seeds don't always last very long, maybe about 2 years if you keep them in the refrigerator from year to year. So you want to make sure you have fresh seeds because you want them to be able to germinate. The next thing you're going to look at are the directions on the back. It's very clear, it explains exactly what the plant is going to do and what it's supposed to look like. In this case, it's a fast-growing, gigantic flower which produces an immense golden blossom. So that'll tell you exactly what your particular seed is going to produce. You're going to come down to here where it says type. So it's an annual. Annual means that it only has one growing season, so it dies once the winter comes along in our particular area. If it was a perennial, that would mean that it would keep coming back every single year. In this case, we're going to plant an annual. The next thing is the height. How big is that plant going to be? That plant's going to be, if you can believe it, anywhere between 8 to 10 feet tall. That's really big. So when you plant it, you need to make sure that you have some place where it's very nice and sunny that it can grow to 8 to 10 feet tall. That's going to be a really big spot in your garden. The next thing it tells you is how deep you plant your seed. Oftentimes, a seed only has enough energy, the little plant inside the seed only has enough energy to get itself to the surface depending on the depth of the plant that you plant it. So you want to make sure you don't plant it too deep, because then it will run out of energy before it gets to the surface. And you don't want to make sure that you plant it too shallowly, because then sometimes the birds will come along and eat it before it even gets a chance to bloom or to germinate. So then, and how far apart should you plant them? That's seed spacing. This says 6.5 inches apart. So it seems interesting. I think that's inches. Yeah, six inches apart. So when you go down your row, you don't want the seeds too close together, because then all the flowers will be all clumped together and they won't be able to get enough sun or air or water to grow properly. Once they all come up, then you thin them. In other words, you go along and you take them out of the row. I usually like to just take a scissors and cut them off, because sometimes they're so close together that you'll pull the whole plant up, or lots of them up at the same time. Then the next one is spacing after thinning. So once you've thinned, you want them about 2 feet apart, because remember, this is going to be a very big plant, anywhere between 8 to 10 feet. And then, how many days till germination? How long does it take before that little seed starts to pop up and you start to have leaves? And in this case, it's going to be anywhere between 10 to 20 days. So a little more than 2 weeks. It's going to take a while. So don't get discouraged if you don't see it popping up right away. All right, so now we're going to open up our package, and we're going to pop out a seed. Take out a seed. That's what our seeds are. They look very large. They're really, really, really big. So I'm going to take one seed, and I'm going to set it in the middle of my cup like this. In this case, because it's a large seed, you probably only want to put one seed in your cup. If you have little tiny seeds, like for marigolds or for tomatoes or peppers, you could maybe start 4 seeds in there, and then just cut off the ones that don't do as well, or repot them up into a bigger pot. So sometimes you can start more. But because the sunflower seed is so large, I think it's probably best just to keep one seed to the cup. So once you have that in there, it's right in the middle, then I'm going to take a little bit more sand. And remember, it said on here that you're only going to plant it to the depth of 1/2 inch. So we don't want very, very much sand on there, or on top of there. So that's going to be the top of it. We won't use soil on top of that. So there we go. He's all tucked in there, all nice. Alrighty. So now you've got this all planted. And so now you're going to take your cup, your water cup, and you're going to pour this water into where it says water level on the bottom here. This should all be in your greenhouse in a bag, and it'll say water level right on the bottom here. And then you're going to poke your little cup right inside there. Then you're going to take your actual greenhouse. I know it looks like a sandwich bag, but really in our case it's going to be a greenhouse. So on here there's some lines, and so you're going to take your scissors. Remember, we talked about this, that you need to do this with supervision. You're not going to cut very far, only a couple of inches down, like so. Then you'll open it up, and you can kind of see that there's a little hole sticking right on there. This actually gives the plant and the seed a little bit of air. They need air to grow, but it kind of conserves the moisture in here, which makes it really, really nice and helps the plant to grow. So once that comes down over the top of that, and then you just take the little Ziploc parts on the side of it and squeeze them tight so they're nice and tight around the base of the cup. So there's your little mini greenhouse like that, for instance. So once you start to get the leaves that are starting to pop up like this, then you can take the bag off, and every day, oh, and the other thing I forgot to tell you is you need to put this in a sunny window. It has to go in a sunny window. And once it starts to germinate and you get your little flower, every day you can come along and you can say good morning to it and run your hand over the top of it. This is very important because this causes air to move, and that also helps with the dampening off fungus issue. So remember to say very, very good morning to that and run your hand right across the top of that. If you have more than 1 or 2 or 3 seeds that you have, you can just run your hand right over the top of the pan that you might have them in. All right, so we're there. So eventually, it's going to pop up and it's going to get big like this. So then what I do is I call this up potting. So I do the same exact situation that I did before, only I'm putting the little plant inside this pot so it's a little bit bigger. And once it grows in this pot, it'll start to develop roots and stuff down on the bottom, so then it'll be ready to go out in the garden.